All right. Good morning, Greene County. I'm glad you guys are here. It occurred to me this morning that I had a question. I was at a men's Bible study this morning, and there was a kickoff question. And what was one of the best advice that somebody gave you? And it occurred to me that the most influential men in my life hurt me. The best advice I got from my dad, and really it came from a football coach too, is if you're not here 10 minutes early and ready to go, you're late. And if you're late, you're going to pay for it. And they hurt me bad if I wasn't there 10 minutes early and ready to go. So I was one of the first in the door. I'm up. Cindy said, Bob's running a little behind. Can you get us started? And I said, absolutely, I can get you started. So I guess my question of the day for you before we get going on this is, why don't you throw something out there? What is the best advice anyone gave you? That's a tough one, isn't it? Yeah.
Seek God.
Seek God. Absolutely. Yeah. Yeah. It starts there. Honestly, it does. Or you get hurt. So what else? What's some other advice? Yeah.
It's not fair.
Oh, yeah.
You're going to be continually disappointed.
That's true. That's true. Yes. So I heard that the response is, the good advice is, life is not fair. And if you're expecting life to be fair, you will be constantly disappointed. And yeah, that's absolutely the truth. That's probably a good advice we could use up here at planning and zoning someday too. I don't know if that will fly very well to say, well, it's not fair, so get over it. That was the second half of that with my dad. Life's not fair, get over it. So somebody else, good advice. Best advice you heard. One of the guys this morning said his dad told him, don't eat yellow snow. And that was the best advice he got. So yeah, so that's pretty good advice. Yeah. Yeah. Or yeah, go ahead.
The windshield's bigger than the rearview mirror.
The windshield is bigger than the rear view mirror. You want to explain that for us? I think I get it, but go ahead and explain it.
I don't want to take up Bob's time, but as you keep driving, your problems in your past become smaller and smaller.
Yeah, that's great.
And your opportunities become larger and larger.
Yeah, that's very good. Yeah. And know where the brake pad is so you don't hit somebody as you're looking forward.
Very true.
Yeah, always good advice. So, yeah, I'm going to throw one more thing in, and then we'll get Bob going here too. I'll just start with one last thing. How about those Chiefs, huh? Yeah, finally, they look pretty good. And it occurred to me, and this is my one pitch on the county side of things, is that, I love to win, and I am Team Greene County. So in that game, it felt good for the Chiefs because we actually beat a really good team. And part of winning is sometimes beating the other team. And it feels good both to win, and sometimes it feels good to beat the other team. But really in county work and in government work, and really probably in life, it's good to find those win-wins where you can honestly say we won, but you know what? The other side gets a win out of this too, because that's when those that we serve benefit the most. And I can say we've been doing some work with the new leadership on the city of Springfield. And I'm the first to, when I get to say good morning Greene County or good morning Springfield, when Bob's not there and I get a chance to speak at the good morning Springfield, I always say good morning Greene County, just to get a little poke in that we're bigger than the city, and we love that. So, but we are finding some opportunities to work with the new mayor and the new city manager where we're honestly finding some win-win scenarios. And it's really good. And I think it's because the new leadership, and this is not a knock on the old, but the new ones have come in fresh-eyed and really no preconceived ideas. They don't know what they don't know. And so they are also excited about these win-win opportunities. And we've worked on some things on, honestly, can't really announce it too soon yet, but the city recognizes they have a problem with planning and zoning in that, and it's not a problem that any person there has created, but it's a problem with the city charter. So when you read about these planning and zoning cases that are so contentious in the city and they make all the news, if the Planning and Zoning Commission for them approves it and the city council approves something, one neighbor who's upset and has a clipboard and can get a handful of signatures can say, hold on, I'm going to shut down your development until we take it to the voters. And as a developer, that is terrifying to our development community. So many of them say, I'm not going to buy this piece of ground. I'm not going to hire engineers and architects to put together a proposal that looks really good of what I'd like to do to improve this property, because I know it's just going to get shot down. There's no winning in this. So the city recognizes that as a problem for them. They also recognize that they've created some cost problems for building homes. We talk about affordable housing, and we need affordable housing. We need, the new word now is attainable housing, that workforce can attain or achieve. We need workforce housing. Well, you need to understand that in today's market, and these are verified statistics, 30% of the cost of every new home built is directly attributed to government regulations. So the government is not the solution. The government is the problem. And we have taken that look at Greene County. What do we need to do to keep a house safe and keep the citizens safe? But when have we crossed too far and we're actually dabbling in things that hurt affordable housing? Well, the city recognizes they have some things that hurt affordable housing. So we're very close to an agreement that would help things be developed and built in the county, and then they annex afterwards. And that is a win-win. And we've worked out the details with the city on the things that their concerns can be addressed, but we can have this a win-win so that we can still achieve affordable housing. We can still achieve some growth and those sorts of things. I will say one final thing, and I'll let Bob roll on this too. Those who are looking at economic growth and development, especially industrial and new businesses, are starting to recognize now. We talk about infrastructure, and when they're going to move a business to an area, they say, do you have the infrastructure we need? And typically that's gas, water, and sewer. Do you have that? If you have that and electricity, that's the infrastructure. If you have the roads, that's the infrastructure. There are two new items now being thrown in the words infrastructure, and that is affordable housing and childcare, which they both recognized are a big need. So those two things have entered the mix now on infrastructure, and it's just something to be aware of as we move forward as a county and as a community, and as we move forward in the service industry, which we are. And so now I want to introduce really the media rock star right now. I don't know if you've read anything or you've seen anything or you've pulled your head out from under a rock, because if you haven't had your head under a rock, you've seen Bob's picture, you've heard his words, you've seen what the press is saying about his state of the county. In my opinion, the best state of anything I've seen, really and truly. He threaded the needle so many ways that it came out that this county looks good. It feels good to work here. And Bob is just the darling of the media right now. So would you welcome our own darling Bob Dixon? You're welcome.
Oh, I appreciate it. And it's great to be with y'all and talk kind of post state of the county. It really kind of going right along with what Rusty was saying. One of the things I talked about was housing. And I quoted Matt Morrow, who made a statement one day at a chamber event, which I loved the way this was worded, partly because of some of the people in the room. You can't be for affordable housing if you're not for housing. People have to have a place to live. And everybody, I think, understands supply and demand. I mentioned this the other day, if some of you were in the meeting up here over lunch. Even the pharaohs of ancient Egypt figured out if they made more gold coins, because they had tons of gold, each coin was worth a little bit less. You know, we see this in modern day too, but what's happening with the housing market is because we're not feeding the supply, prices have gone way, way up. So that's a real issue. One of the things that I talked about was economic growth and development. And I talked about a processing plant that I toured up in Warren County. It was in Wright City. Being on the board for the County Commissioners Association, we had our summer board meeting in Warren County, and they said, well, we'd like for you to tour this meat packaging plant. And I thought, oh boy, this is going to be really interesting, because there's got to be some environmental challenges with that and so forth. It was actually really amazing. And the director of agriculture was there. They had worked with DNR. They'd worked actually with the city there and built them a new treatment plant. Was much better than what they had. Their practices were very sustainable. They built, I think the floor on that thing was like 6 or 8 feet thick. It was, everything was sealed so well. Roughly 2,000 jobs. The director of agriculture mentioned in that meeting, she said, when we first started talking to the folks, they were out of Green Bay, Wisconsin, trying to move south and a little bit east in the country. She said, well, you ought to look at Southwest Missouri because that's where the cattle are. The reason they didn't come here was because we did not have the workforce and we did not have the housing. So those two things really go hand in hand. And we are trying to find ways to address it on the county side. One thing I mentioned, our planning folks have put together this brochure, which we've had 3 public meetings now, right, Kevin? But we're asking that everyone still fill out the survey by the end of the year. And you can take one of these, they're on the counter there. Fill one of these out with the QR code and help us develop our next 10-year comprehensive plan with regard to land use. Where are we going to have the agricultural areas? Where are we going to have the residential areas, the commercial, and so forth? So we're looking at all of these things to really make sure that we're doing it the right way. One of the things that's really essential is that we watch for things like quality groundwater and environmental issues with regard to development. So things like what I was just talking about can be done if we do them the right way. I didn't mention this at the State of the County address, but one of the first people I talked with in groups when I got back from Warren County was some of our folks that are involved in Watershed and James River Basin Partnership, because I said to them, you know, we've got to have, and I think in analogies sometimes. So I said, you know, we have to have automotive shops in the county. We don't just run them all out because we don't want oil seeping into the ground. We just teach people that you deal with the oil the right way. You dump it, you don't dump it on the dirt pile. We don't want that in our drinking water. But we have to be able to change our oil in our vehicles. So it's the same thing with eating if we do it the right way. And I think we can. I think it can be a win-win. So we're working with Missouri Farmers Care. When was that meeting? Like a couple, 3 months ago?
Yeah, about 2.5, 3 months ago, I think.
And actually it grew out of our big meeting at Willard a year or so ago. Some of them were there and they said, we want to talk with you. So we invited them to come to the commission office and we talked with them. And one of the things that they offer and work on is making a county ag ready, agribusiness. And that doesn't always just mean agriculture. Sometimes it's the related industries. Sometimes it's the value added products. And so if we are able to attain that, we'll have all of the other folks looking at it as well to make sure that we maintain what's really important to us here in this area, because it affects things like tourism, not just our drinking water. Anyway, we'd be the first county to be receiving that designation that's a first-class county. Now, I understand that Christian counties heard about that and they're trying to race us to it, but we'll do it right, but we want to beat them if we can too. So anyway, it was great to talk with folks. One of the things that I really stressed was the quality of our employees. I bragged on you all. I talked about our culture of service that we've discussed in here and how we really focus on not only serving one another, but serving the public. I talked about the fact that I was very real on some things. I said, you know, our pay structure is below market. People don't stay at the county because of the pay. They stay because they're citizens here and they want to do the service. And I have to believe that a lot of folks stay because of the culture. Um, Greene County's a family. How many got the email I sent you yesterday? I put that in there about the Greene County family. We're excited to do the Employee Appreciation Day again this year. That'll be a week from tomorrow out here on the lawn. I hope we have good weather. We didn't plan the weather, but we have a backup plan, and we're thrilled to be able to do it. Thanks to the Harold Bench Fund and our folks at Midwest Public Risk, and also several of our office holders and department heads who donated to make it possible. So that was one of the things that I talked about extensively. I gave some stories. I gave an example of folks that prevented, this was in the collector's office and the recorder's office, that prevented a lady's land from essentially being transferred by a fraudulent deed to somebody out of state. Going that extra mile is what we do. And because we're all invested in the protection of our citizens and the success of our mission. So I did talk about some of our structural challenges. Every opportunity I get to educate the public on how the county is funded, I take that opportunity because there's so much misunderstanding out there. People write that check to the collector of revenue at the end of the year, and they think that all stays here at the county. And I can tell them and tell them and tell them, but there's still somebody out there who thinks that's how the county's funded. So I explained that we are a collection agency for our 42 taxing entities, and that our real funding source is sales tax. And I explained how we don't collect sales tax on online sales, and that we would leave that up to the business community to right that wrong, because it is a disadvantage to our local merchants who invest here, they build here, they pay property tax here, and they employ people here. So I tried to make that case. I also talked about some of the other challenges with regard to funding for parks and libraries, and how some of those challenges actually were manufactured by the insistence of our friends in Jefferson City trying to solve problems when it actually created a local problem. I made the case, and I believe this with all my being, that the best decisions for the people are made locally. I said this on the radio yesterday. Part of the reason those are the best decisions is because the folks who are impacted can come in this building and they can either chew us out or thank us. And we're very available, right? It's really a contrast when you look at what we do every day to serve our neighbors, and you consider this isn't a political statement. Everybody knows the government shut down. There's probably enough blame to hit both sides with. But you look at the chaos and the conflict, and honestly, the convolution in DC, and to some degree, even Jefferson City increasingly, and you compare that with our calm, courteous connectedness here with the public and with one another, it's a major contrast, and it's a major statement of why we're here and who we serve. So I'm so proud of you all, and I was really thrilled with the opportunity to brag on you. And we tried to cast a vision of where we go from here, not only with our land use plan, but also after the first of the year, we'll find a way to develop a new, probably 5-year strategic plan as a lot of our campus improvements kind of come to a close over the next year. Where do we go from here? And we want you all involved in that process. So we'll be making plans for that after the first of the year. We did hand out again our state of the county. Remember, last year we switched from the booklet to the postcard. I would encourage you to take a few of these, share them with your neighbors, share them with your family, or if you have particular groups that you're involved in, just let folks know this is a much larger report to citizens now that it's just this QR code. I think this year it was like 57 pages, It's like triple what we started out with, but there's a lot of good information. And this comprehensive plan link is also in here, so you can mention that to them, but we would like them to fill that out by the end of the year. I did talk about some of the great things going on in our cities around the county. And again, I know I mentioned this in here before, but I did talk about the event center that is proposed. It's the only thing on the November ballot, and I completely endorsed it. And part of the reason I did is because what I calculated it would do for our operations. Our general sales tax rate times the estimated revenue annually is roughly $900,000 in revenue just to Greene County. That would significantly help our annual budget. And they're not asking us for any money to pay for the thing. So that is, that's, I think, a win-win for our area. So a couple of other things I'll mention. I want to save a few minutes for questions. Coming up in 2026, we have, this is the 250th anniversary of the nation's founding. Rusty was up yesterday in Willard for a couple, 300 people up there.
Over 300.
Yeah. It was an amazing event, and offered a proclamation on behalf of the commission. There are going to be a number of events as we embark on this 250th year. And a really cool one coming, I think it's the 6th of March. We'll have an exhibit in the rotunda from the Smithsonian that will be here, I think, about a week. Is that right, Kevin? Yeah. So there will be a number of things, and we would encourage you to involve yourself in some of those festivities. And also, if you're interested in planning, Connie Yen has stepped in to be our chair of those festivities. We actually started with another citizen who was on the Bicentennial Commission, but due to health reasons, he had to step back, and Connie very graciously, who was already serving on the committee, stepped up and is leading those. So thanks to Connie, we really appreciate that. There's some other things we'd love to do in 2026, but we'll see how the year goes. I just want to again say thank you to you all for what you do every day. We're excited to have the barbecue a week from tomorrow. And for the sheriff's office, we'll be doing the same thing on Friday, the 24th. So with that, I'll see if there are any questions. Yes.
A resident in Greene County to fill out that survey.
It's ideal if you are. Is that right, Kevin? I mean, you don't have to. Yeah, it's just an opinion. We have a lot of folks who work in the county that don't live in the county, whether they're working for Greene County or for other businesses. And so we'd like everybody's opinion. It's not required. Anybody else? Yeah.
You see the use tax one on the balloting time, sir?
We have not made a decision on that. I can tell you it won't happen before April of 2027. I don't see how we do it when we're still doing the construction projects. My thought is let's get those out of the way. I'm amazed at the level of confusion sometimes about things, even if we explain it 100 times to the public. I still run into folks who think we're funded by property tax, for example. I think a lot of folks, even educated folks, look at our buildings and building projects and they say, oh, they just are washing money. They don't understand that that's bonded indebtedness. So my thought is we wait until April of 27. And we've asked the business community to weigh in on that. I will say this too. I'm glad you mentioned that because it triggered my memory. We are going to do a community survey in 2026. So it'll start around January 2nd or 3rd. And to my knowledge, that's, at least in my time, that's the first time we've done one. Other governmental entities and educational institutions do these on an annual basis. Really to get the sense of the community on things like this. So that will give us some guidance as to, is there support out there? What the funds should be used for, understanding of county operations. So there are, Polk County's put it on the ballot 4 times, and they've always emphasized public safety. The last time it was public safety and prosecutor's office. It's failed all 4 times. I believe it's on the ballot in Christian County. That's what I was thinking. And I thought, where did I see that? I think it was Christian County. Yeah. And so it will be interesting to see how those go. A lot of counties have put it on and it has passed. So I think we need to have our citizens and particularly the business community weigh in, and there's really no way to do that before April of 27 with those two things. It's roughly $12 million a year. And my statement to the chamber a week or so ago was, why would we continue to subsidize out-of-state corporations to the tune of $12 million a year? Why wouldn't we tax all sales equally and keep the tax low? So that's kind of, I think, that education that folks, and just the paradigm that folks need to think about it through. Anybody else? All right. Thanks very much. Grab some things on the way out. Have a great day.